I found this file on Creative Fabrica to make some Valentine Lightboxes. I don't have a laser, but I'm going to use my Cricut. I've opened Cricut Design Space after downloading that file, and I've opened it on my desktop. So now I'm going to click Upload. I'll open the folder it's in, and I will drag across the file I want, which is the bunny one. I'm going to click Continue, and I will rename it. I'm going to call it Valentine's Bunny Lightbox. And then I can click my boxes folder to put it in, and I will upload, and it will bring it onto the desktop. I'm going to open the little arrow, and it will give me all the pieces. I don't want the face on this end, so I'm deleting that. And I need to do a little bit of editing because I don't want any of the holes. I'm going to use some resin, but I do want to transfer this face, which appears on this bunny, to this bunny. So let me click on them and get rid of this one because I don't need that at all. And now I want to transfer the face from here over to this bunny. So I'm going to ungroup all of them. Just click that at the top, and then I'll click onto the desktop. And this is the bunny I'm going to transfer the face to. So I'm just going to change the color of it because I want to be able to see it and make sure that it is completely lined up on top of the other bunny. Then I can be sure that I get the face in the right place. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit and move my screen around. And just make sure I line it up as best I can, and that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. That'll do. Now in the layers panel on the side, I can see the separate face pieces, so I need to make sure that I select them and the green bunny that I want to put it on. So if I select the last piece and the green bunny and then all the bits in between, and I'm just holding down my shift key and using my mouse, then I can move everything over all at once and group them together. Then I can get rid of the bunny with the holes. So now I can go back to the bunny that I turned green and turn it back to red again. And those are all together. So I'm just going to ungroup that again, and then I'm going to go down to the bottom and combine, and I will click Unite, and that will turn it into one bunny that I can move around, and it will cut it all as one piece. So that's my top layer, and these are spacer layers, and I'm going to want to cut more of those. So I'm just going to select my top piece first, and I'll click the duplicate button twice so that I get 3 layers, and then I will select each of the spacer bunnies and click the duplicate button once, and I have 4 layers. Now this bunny over here I don't need, so I'm going to delete that one, and now I'm going to click a spacer bunny and I'm going to add one more. So I'm going to duplicate that and I move this over, and I want to change this into my back piece. So I'm going down to the bottom where the contour button is, and I'm going to click the center piece or the bottom layer here so that I have one large bunny. So I've just zoomed in a little bit, and I'm going to put a hole for the lights to go through. So I'm going to get a circle from the shapes bar, and I will resize that. And I want it pretty small because the lights are those very, very thin wire LEDs. And I'm going to put it on the foot, just on one side. Then I will select the bunny itself, and I'll go down to Combine, but I will choose Subtract, and that cuts out the hole. And now I can duplicate this bunny so that I end up with 2 layers. Duplicated that, and now I have one more piece that I need to cut, so I'm going to duplicate one of the spacer bunnies, and I'm going to go up and change the color, and I'll change it to a grey color, and Now I want to go to contour and I want to take out that middle piece. So this will be a diffuser and I will cut it from some copy paper, and the rest of them are the frame, and I will cut that from light chipboard, which will be a cereal packet. Click make and go ahead and cut as normal. Okay, so I've cut them all out now using my Cricut Maker, and I just used a cereal packet and I set that to light cardstock, and I used more pressure, and I managed to cut 2 of the base out. I've cut 5 of the hollow middle section, and these are the spacers. And then I cut 3 of the bunny with the face, although I've discarded the face on that one, and I will discard the face on that too. I'm going to actually put the features in to using some vinyl afterwards, just some permanent vinyl. So I'm just going to take the faces out, if I can get them. Just needs to pop out a little bit, but it is cut through. So keep all these little hearts. I will use those in some other project. And actually the center of these creates a sweet little bunny all of its own. So I might be able to do something with those too. So I'm just going to carry on popping these little bits out, releasing them, and then I need to get some glue. And what I'm going to do is I am going to stick these layers together. So I'm going to line them up and stack them, and I will use some glue. I like to use some I think it's Beacon 3-in-1 glue. I'll show you in a minute. So I will stack them together, each of the pieces, so that they are completely lined up, and I will be back once I've finished poking all of these bits out. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to be using some Collall bookbinding glue, because I can't find, well, I think I've run out of the Beacon glue that I like to use. So I will use this instead. It is used for paper and cartons and things, cartonage rather, I should say, building boxes and things. Okay, so I'm just going to put some around the edge, if I can get it to come out. Seriously. Okay. More than I wanted, but you don't want to drown this in the glue, but you do want a decent amount. I don't care if it goes around the edges, it will seal them. But I'm going to have to work quite quickly with this because it dries fairly quickly. So I will cover this. You could use a sponge to apply this, which would probably be a little bit easier. Okay, I'm going to line up my bunny. So try and get the feet lined up. And slide it into position. You do want to try and match it up so that it sits directly on top. Okay, I can see that's a little bit off. I'm just going to slide it into position. You see the ears coming off. There we go. So I'm going to let that sit and go off. I haven't stuck the bottom yet. I will do that in a minute. I'm just going to let the top sit properly, and I will work on these. And that's really all I'm doing at the moment, is just gluing all of the pieces together in their stacks. So I'm not going to bore you with that. I'll speed it up for you, and then I will do the rest of them off camera, because it's just going to be the same process. Now these ones, these little thin frames, you're going to need to be careful, because they will try to distort because they are so thin. So it may look like you've got it lined up there, but it won't at the bottom. So just going to try and make sure I've got it lined up everywhere. That's as best as I can do it. And again, I'm going to let that go off, and I will finish doing the rest of these, and I'll meet you back here when they're all ready. Okay, I've stuck them together now. So this is the back. It's pretty hard, and it will get harder. It's still a little wet, so it will get harder. Same with the frame, and you can see you've got some pretty good depth there. And this is the top piece. Now, once this has completely dry, I want to spray this with a varnish. I'm going to use an acrylic spray varnish. You can use Mod Podge to paint over it. You just need to seal it, because I want to put some resin in these gaps. So I want every area, even these little bits on the inside, to be sealed. But that needs to dry completely first. This is not so, it doesn't matter if this is sealed or not. I think I'm going to do it just because it will give it added strength, and also it will make it easier to clean later on. But in the meantime, I want to stick this down on my base bunny, just around the edge. So I'm going to flip that over, and I've been using a makeup sponge to apply the glue. It was just much easier. So I've just put some blobs around the outside, and I'm not worried if the glue overspills and goes along the sides, because I want to seal them anyway. So it's doing half my job for me, as long as I don't have great big strings of glue spoiling the shape. But you're not really going to see this part of it. This is just the frame. So okay, that's all nice and gluey. So I will stick them together and make sure they line up. And push it down. I'm going to put a weight on top of it to make sure that it does stay in place. I just want to make sure that the frame lines up and that my bunny is going to sit on top, which he does. So I'm going to put some greaseproof paper over the top of this, and then I will put something heavy on there just to keep that weighted down so that it doesn't warp. And then once these are dry and sealed, I can come back and move on to the next step. Okay, so I took this out to my shed, and I decided to use a silver spray paint just to paint around on the back and around the edges. And this one I did the front and tried to make sure that all of these edges were sealed as well. The back, I've just put a little bit of just varnish, ordinary varnish, and I've done that primarily because I want to stick this piece down onto some sticky tape or bezel tape. Whatever you've got will fit. Bezel tape will be a bit small, so I'm going to use some more sticky plastic, and I'll put that on the back. I'm going to fill this with resin, so I didn't want that to pull off the cardboard once I try and remove the tape, so that's why I put some acrylic varnish on the back of that. So let me go ahead and stick this down, and then I can get ready to mix up my resin and fill in my shapes. Okay, I've got this small piece of stencil tape that was left over. It's stencil vinyl. I'm going to try that just because I can't find my other sticky back plastic, which I had the other day and I tidied up. Do not tidy up your craft room, or at least in my case, that's never a good idea. I'm just going to stick that edge over and then peel off the backing. And I'm hoping, because it is stencil tape, that it won't stick too much, just enough. We shall see. And if I cannot cut it off, then I will just have to, or pull it off rather, I will just have to cut it off. Never used this before as a damming tape, but I don't really see why it wouldn't work. Okay, so there's my rabbit. Let me get some gloves on and then I can fill in these little areas. Okay, so I'm going to use the JDiction UV resin. I've got a little bit of JDiction's resin pigment in red, and I've got a white acrylic nail powder. So I'm going to put some of the resin into a little pot. I'm going to try and make a pink. I don't need an awful lot for this part. I really don't need a lot of red. A nice pale pink, but I do want this, well, not opaque, but a little bit more of a solid colour than that is. Well, let me add the white first and see what that looks like. So I'm going to see how that mixes in, and if it does mix in okay. That's the kind of colour I want though, so I don't need to add any more red pigment. Right, mix that in. There we go. Hopefully I've got enough just to fill in these little areas. So that's really all I'm going to do at the moment, is mix up my colours and fill these in, and then use a UV lamp to cure them. So I will speed this up for you. Okay, I don't know if you noticed here, but I've got a bit of overspill, so I'm just going to try and clean that up a little bit before I set this. Let's see if I can clean that off. Okay, that's not too bad. Right, let me set those now using my lamp. Okay, I've just finished curing that on the back, and I can see that I have got a small leak just here, but it hasn't come outside of my frame. So I think what I might do is actually put some UV resin on the inside of this big one before I finish pouring it with ordinary resin, because I don't want it to flood out. And if I have enough UV resin, I may well just use UV resin anyway. So I've mixed up a little bit into that same pot. I don't need that pink anymore, so I've just added some more red and some more UV resin, and I'm going to fill up these little hearts now on the feet. And then I will set that as well. I think I'm going to do them one at a time just to make sure they don't have a chance to leak out too much. So I will cure that again, front and back. So I'm just layering these up a little bit to make sure that they are full. I didn't want to put too much in at any one time, obviously because it is UV, so I don't want it to be too thick. But I think I'd quite like these to be a little bit domed and puffy. So I'm just putting some more on the top of the already cured resin, and then I'm going to cure that for 150. Okay, so I still have quite a bit of the red UV resin, so I might as well use that to fill the heart, or try to fill the heart anyway. So I'm just going to scrape this in and smooth it around, try and fill the bottom. It's a little bit chilly here today, but I don't want to use any kind of heat on this because, you know, it will make the plastic wrinkle underneath and I'll risk it leaking everywhere. I think if you trust your bezel tape, then yeah, I think you'd be fine using just epoxy resin, but obviously the longer it has to sit in a fluid state, the more chance there is of it actually leaking through or soaking into any areas that you haven't glued together or sealed in the actual frame. Okay, I think I got a pretty good layer on there now. Let's just see if I can get the rest of this in there. Okay, I might mix up a tiny bit more in a minute. So curing that. Okay, so the heart and the toes and the feet hearts are done. Now the body, I want to try and mix up some pale beigey brown colour. I think you can see that this, I might have to stick this onto something else because it's rippling and it's not really working so much to hold the resin in place. It didn't do too badly here, but yeah, I definitely want to take this off. I'll try and re-stick it somewhere else, further up, but it isn't tearing the back, which is good. So let me see if I can get this to stick down again properly. Okay, I'll sort those bits out in a minute. So I've got Arteza cotton white mica powder, and I've got a chocolate brown. So I'm going to try and mix up a beige colour. So I'm just going to put some more UV resin in my pot. I'm going to need a decent amount for this. Put a scoop in there and give that a mix around. Try and get all these lumps mixed in. Probably should have mixed a tiny amount first, try and get all the lumps out before I mix the big amount. I'll just keep mixing it round. I've got some time as long as I don't expose it to the UV. That's not too bad. I want the smallest amount of brown just to give it a kind of beigey tint. It may even be enough if I can scrape some off my lid. Then I'll just mix it in, and I'm just going to make sure that this is smoothed down and stuck very well on the back. Then I can fill the ears. Just get one even layer over the bottom, make sure it touches all of the side of the frame, and then I'll cure that, which I did, and I can now add a second layer on top. Okay, so I've filled the ears, and now I'm going to skip these little bits at the moment, and I've still got quite enough white mixed up, so I'm going to fill this, well, hopefully, even if I can just get one layer down on the body and the head, So I'm just going to smooth this round and cure this. Okay, I'm going to cure that now. So I mixed up a little bit more. I'm just going to fill this in now and make sure that I get a nice, smooth, as flat as I can surface, because I would like to put some vinyl on there for the bunny's features. So I'm going to want that to be pretty flat in order to make them stick. So I carried on filling this second coat in, and you can see on the plastic that there's quite a lot of wrinkles, and that's where the previous resin pieces has shrunk as they've cured. So I need to just cure this now. Before I do, I've got to pop some bubbles. I'm just using a little long neck torch to do that, and then I'll cure it, and then I'm going to have to put new tape on the back. Okay, I carried on using the stencil vinyl because it was working pretty well, so I stuck some new pieces over the remaining areas that needed to be filled. Then I added some more mica, some more brown mica to my resin, mixed that in, and then just filled those areas and cured them again under the lamp. So my little rabbit is going to fit on the front of there, but behind I need to put the little lights. Now there's a lot of them. I need to be working these through this little hole. I can pull them through the hole, then it's just a case of sticking them on the inside of the frame. Right, so now I just need to work them around the frame and squish them flat. Now I can tape these down, or I can stick them down with a blob of UV resin. Let's put a blob there. Hopefully that was just hold the wire down. Okay, that's stuck down. So I'm gonna go ahead and work my way around, sticking this down in places. All right, the lights are all in place. I'll turn them on now. And I'm going to put the bunny on the top. But as you can see, or I think you can see, the lights are quite bright. They're very pinpoint, but I can also see the wires through there, and I don't like that. So that's why I wanted to cut another piece of copy paper bunny. And I mentioned when I was in the file that it's a diffuser. So it helps to spread the light out and hide the wires anyway. So I'll need to glue that down. But if I put the bunny on the top and line it up, and then I can turn out my light, and you'll get a little bit of a better view to see how that diffuser works. It just makes it look so much better. Now all I need to do is glue this together, and then I need to cut the face out of some vinyl and stick that on. So I'm just going to use some bookbinding glue to stick the copy paper down. So I'm just going to put a weight on the back of that just to hold that down for a few minutes. And I will use some B7000 to stick the other one down, because there is a layer of varnish and there's some resin on the top frame. Okay, so I've cut out the face on some permanent vinyl, and it's just on a piece of masking tape transfer paper. So now I can place it on my bunny, and hopefully it will transfer across. Okay, there he is. So I think he's adorable, and he's very strong, very sturdy. I think I wish I'd distributed the lights a little better, but I'm pretty happy with him. If you've liked this video, please give me a thumbs up and a comment. And if you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you would do so. Thanks for watching. Bye.